Yeah.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You do out here.
Say something again.
Can you hear me?
Okay, that's much better. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go ahead and mute it.
All right, thank you right now.
just want to tell you, so I talked to staff. We did not do any building permits for the pickleball courts because they were inside the park. So I don't know where the pickleball permit came from because there's no permit for that. They've already been built. Okay, fence permit. I don't have any permits for that area. No permits for the access. So that is a fence permit. I don't have. So the other thing I wanted to say, this is the comments for the zoning. Okay, so I highlighted all the times that zoning basically repeated the exact same comments. And today, my planner Bonnie spoke to Eric Ranger, and they're aware of the fact that they have to get approval from the business board, but they want to go through the permit process first. No one's going to deny it until it goes to that board. So I just wanted to show you how many times we've given the board. Absolutely. So, yeah, they know. They know. What time are you coming through? There's a lot of comments. All right. Eric, all right. So, if this was an allowable building area, this is what they right? So, we told them. That was like.
Progress.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for September 14th, 2022. Please have roll call.
Commissioner Drosky,
Here.
Commissioner Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hudak,
Here.
and Mayor Vance.
Here. Could we please stand for a moment of silence and our pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. We please have approval of the city commission meeting minutes for the budget workshop of August 9th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion from Commissioner Barnett, second by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes for planning and zoning for July 7th, 2022. Firefighters pension board meeting minutes June 6th, 2022. And our code compliance meeting minutes July 27th, 2022.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion from Commissioner Preston, second by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Approval of our agenda for September 14th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion to second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk.
For anyone connected online via the video, to participate, please cover your mouth at the bottom of the screen. Click participant tab. On the right, click raise hand to be recognized by your profile name and your audio will be unmuted. For anyone connected via mobile or landline, dial star 93 will be recognized by the last three digits on the phone. You may dial star 6 if necessary to unmute. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our first item on our agenda tonight is bittersweet because after 5 remarkable years as the CEO of Broward Health North, Miss Alice Taylor is retiring. It was it was something that was stunning, but we can understand with all her hard work, we can understand why she might want to retire. Alice was named as the CEO of Broward Health North in November of 2017. She oversaw the $56 million renovation and expansion of Broward Health North campus to create a state-of-the-art 409 bed facility and a new emergency room that services the needs of our community here. Alice has guided Broward Health North national recognition as an outstanding hospital in hip replacement procedures, stroke response and recovery, and diabetes type 2 care. Alice was a leader in the business community, standing side by side with her staff to enthusiastically promote the We Are Deerfield Beach video campaign. Later, Alice served as a founding member of the Deerfield Beach Economic Development Council and focused on marketing of the city of Deerfield Beach and expanding our influence in the South Florida region. Alice was a vocal supporter of many projects here, including that are offered new quality affordable housing in the city and the areas surrounding the hospital. Alice moved Broward Health North into its new role as a teaching hospital by creating a program to bring in 150 new medical interns to the hospital's campus. Speaking of teaching, it is interesting to know that Alice started her education with a goal of becoming a biology teacher. Her journey moved her from that path to a staff nurse at Medical College in Pennsylvania. Fast forward to today, and Alice has clearly broken the glass ceiling with an impressive career of continual advancement that serves as an inspiration to all the young women in our community. Without a doubt, her most impressive act of leadership, though, was guiding Broward Health North through the unprecedented challenges of COVID-19. During this pandemic, you served thousands of patients, adapting the hospital, its staff, and the medical response to an initially unknown virus on sometimes a daily, if not hourly basis. The stories that we heard in the community about the compassionate and responsive care offered to the patients, as well as the countless hours and dedication shown by your staff, are truly unparalleled. Please join us in thanking Alice and her work at Broward Health North and wish her a much deserved retirement.
Never saw a microphone, I didn't want to get in. And thank you so much for this honor. It was really a privilege and an honor to serve the community of Deerfield Beach. I just loved it. I loved every minute of it, my involvement with the city, the wonderful people I met, and we were always there to take care of this community. And we will continue to be the hospital choice for the patients and the family members in the Deerfield Beach community. I would like to take this time to introduce my replacement. His name is Matthew Garner, and Matthew comes to us. Come on up, Matthew. He comes to us from a strong, rich history with the Tenet system. Most recently, he was the CEO at North Shore Hospital in Miami. So he comes to Broward Health with a lot of experience. And if I could handpick someone to replace me, it would have been Matthew. So I'm really pleased to introduce him to the community, and he will continue our journey together as we build a healthy community for Deerfield Beach. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
I can tell you that I have very big shoes. Looking forward to working with you guys.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you, Alice.
Okay, we are now at the budget and millage public hearings, items 2 and 3, which is the final fiscal year 23 millage rate and budget items. I'm going to read both titles into the record so they can be discussed together, and public comment can be addressed to either one of those items. The first item, item number 2, is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, adopting the millage rate to be levied by the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, and ending September 30th, 2023, stating the percentage change by which the millage rate exceeds the rollback rate as computed pursuant to section 200.065 Florida statutes, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. Item number 3 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, adopting the final budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, and ending September 30th, 2023, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. We will need separate votes on each one of these items, although you can discuss them together. And then for the record, the City of Deerfield Beach fiscal year 2023 final operating millage rate is set at 6.0018 mils with a voted debt service of 0.2807 mils for a total fiscal year 2023 millage rate of 6.2825 mils. The fiscal year 23 final operating millage rate of 6.0018 mils is 9.58% more than the rollback rate of 5.477 mils calculated pursuant to state law. And as a reminder, the millage item, the first item, item number 2, will require a 4/5 vote of the City Commission to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Commission, do we have any comments? I know we've all seen the presentations, been through the budget hearings. This is our final vote on the budget. Any comments? Apologize. Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment on item number 2 or item number 3? If so, come on up to the podium. Not seeing any online or here. I'm going to close it to the public. Commission.
Motion to approve item 2.
Okay.
I just want to remind the residents, we have a lot in the house to get, so I'm glad to see that. This commission actually did reduce the millage rate from last year to this year. The reason why it is above the rollback rate is that's to do with the property values, how they have moved up. So that's why the rollback rate is basically, and I'm not incorrect, City Manager, please correct me. Basically, the rollback rate is the rate that the city would institute to collect the exact same amount of taxes as last year. Because property values have increased, even though we've reduced our millage rate, that millage rate is still going to bring in a certain amount of taxes, which is above the rollback rate. So again, this commission did not increased the rollback rate, increased the millage rate. We actually reduced it. But we are still going to be receiving more funds as a city based on the reduced millage rate. So if I'm correct, and that's the manifest, is correct.
Yes, David Santucci, City Manager. I appreciate that, Vice Mayor. Yes, the rollback rate would be, if all things did not change in terms of ad valorem revenue coming into the city, but the millage rate still remains unchanged. And what that has really allowed us to do is propose the budget as we have discussed in both workshops in June, the budget presentation in August, and of course the presentation given during first reading. Really with a very robust capital plan and a lot to do with the absorption of the inflation that the city has experienced in terms of its costs as it relates to supplies, services, fuels, water plant chemicals, you name it, we have seen it across the board. So the fortunate thing is that the stabilization of the millage rate and the additional tax revenue that is brought in, as well as other revenue sources, were able to absorb the inflation without having to increase taxes this year.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So we have a motion and a second for item number 2. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
And now item number 3 is the fiscal year 2023 final budget.
Motion to approve.
We did public all together at once. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, you can make sure that nobody else has a comment.
No one else
if
has
so chooses.
Come on.
This is on the budget. I missed,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
looking at
Item
that.
number 3. I just need your name and address for the record, please.
Dan Kenny, 532 North Fifth Avenue. And I missed it on the ad valorem. I was curious on, and I don't know if that's what he was alerting, where it says it's 235 and going up to 295. Is that correct? The ad valorem tax? That's what it
I
said
think
on
you're
the
talking
front.
about the fire assessment. Is what
Exactly.
you're talking about. That's another item that we have. coming
Okay,
up.
it is coming up tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
Is that correct? Yes. No. Anyone else in the public? Close it. Good, come on. Okay, close it to the public. Commission,
There was a motion, I'll second it.
we have a motion by Vice Mayor Hudak, second by Commissioner Parnas. Give roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 4 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the budget for the Deerfield Beach Community Redevelopment Agency for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, and ending September 30th, 2023, providing for funding through tax increment financing as provided for in Part 3, Chapter 163, Florida statutes, providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you. This is the final approval for the Community Redevelopment Agency's budget. We've met with that, had many presentations during our meetings with the CRA. Is there anyone from the public that has any comments tonight? Not seeing any. I'm going to close it to the public. Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Parnas, seconded by Vice Mayor Hudak. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Gantz.
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, relating to the provision of fire rescue services, facilities, and programs in the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, reimposing fire rescue assessments against assessed property located within the City of Deerfield Beach for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, approving the rate assessment, approving the assessment roll, and providing an effective date.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment on that? I'll just need your name and address.
I haven't come to the meeting for so long, but I was, again,
I'm
Leanne Kenny,
sorry.
532 Northeast 8th Avenue. I just noticed this fire assessment caught me off guard because I remember at one of the meetings way back when I was attending faithfully, that this was introduced to us as a one-time fire assessment fee. And I'm just curious how it went from $75 all the way up to $235. Now it's going up to $295. Anybody know anything why or,
Be happy to tell you tomorrow.
okay,
Do you have any other questions?
no,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? I don't see anyone else on. I'm not sure, and I've been in office now for 14 years, I think, and been coming to commission meetings for a lot longer than even that. And the one-time fee of the $75, I think was probably mentioned maybe 20 years ago or so. I don't know how that was ever presented to be a one-time fee. Most cities have a fire assessment fee to help offset it. What it does is you have a lot of people in the city of Deerfield Beach and other cities that don't pay property taxes. So one of the things to spread out the expense, but all of them use the city services as well as fire rescue. One of the things that was done is this is a way to kind of equalize it out to everybody in the city. So if you have someone who isn't paying any property taxes, they're at least at the minimum going to pay that one fee for the entire year to cover, at least put in something towards the price of covering our cost for fire. I would imagine when $75 came up, the budget was much smaller than what it is. Our budget for fire rescue this year is, Mr. Santucci?
I'm actually pulling that up right now, Mayor. If I could just have a
I
minute.
can tell you when it was 75, it was probably less than $10 million, maybe closer to the $6 million range per year for fire rescue. I believe I don't want to say the wrong number, so I'll look for the exact number. I don't have it in front of me.
The fire rescue budget for this year is in total approximately, be sure I say this correctly. The contract amount is 31 million. The overall expenditures for fire rescue services, pension expenses, capital outlay is 39 million.
So, but as with everything that goes up, there is no such thing as a one-time fee. I can tell you that. I can tell you that there's no such thing as a one-time fee. Once they put it in place, it was meant to offset. So they didn't rely just on ad valorem for that. You know, give you an example, and I certainly don't want to pick a fight with my commissioner from District 3, but many people in Century Village do not pay property taxes. Many of the elderly, other people don't pay property taxes. This is the way of hitting everyone evenly, so people are at least putting something towards that. Now, that fire assessment fee hits commercial businesses differently. It's based on square footage as opposed to just a residential charge, which is one flat yearly rate that you pay. So it is very different. The larger the building, it's based on square footage, certainly more than pay for the fire assessment. So as with anything, cost of inflation, cost of prices going up, but that's why we got to where we're at now. And I believe we are in the middle of the pack when it comes to Broward County as far as where our fire assessment fee is.
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Not seeing anyone else online, to close it to the public. I think I already did it, but Commissioner, any comments? Commissioner Drosky?
I mean, the mayor hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is the great equalizer. There are large sections of our city that either due to property values or exemptions, that they don't pay as much as others. And this is the great equalizer. And so I'm not happy about it, but this is one way to even the playing field. And with costs escalating like everywhere else, this is the only way to catch up. So I'm not happy about it, but I think we have no choice.
Commissioner Preston?
You know, during the budget workshops, meetings, this is one of the things that I struggle with because we have to keep in mind that although there is a need on one side, we also have to take into consideration, the residents, the citizens in which we serve. And my problem then was the cost. We were going from 235 to actually the suggested was like 309. And I opposed it then, and I still do. We have to always remember, and I understand that we have to do something. We are not we don't have the ability, which would be irresponsible, to just kick it down the road. But we still have to consider that our residents have to keep making these jumps, and that's money out of their pocket. And I struggled then and I struggle now, and that's why I voted against it then. And I'm still challenged with that, of where we are. Had it been that we would have went middle of the road, I probably could have supported it a little bit better. But I just think from 235 to 295, that's a big jump for our residents, and it's a little tough for me. So I was challenged with that, and still there.
Thank you. Commissioner Parnas?
Whether you're old, you're young, you're an exempt organization because you're a religious group. If you have an emergency, an ambulance or the fire truck is going to come and help you. And the taxpayers are paying for that. Regardless of who they are, what they believe in, what organizations they respect or don't respect. So it comes down to what is important. Saving lives, saving property. All of you now are paying for people that don't pay. So there were choices the county, the state can make. No exemptions at all. Everybody pay their fair share regardless of their status. Or we will continue along a path where we pay for those who are exempt for whatever reason. I know that when it comes to taxes, veterans get a break, seniors get a break, other people get a break with their property taxes. Those who are receiving it, I do not think object to receiving it. Well, the fire bill has to get paid because everybody gets service. We don't look, well, he pays more than this one, so we'll send 2 fire trucks to his house, but only 1 to that one because he's not paying as much or doesn't pay anything. It's not how it works. We as a city are in this together. And if the cost goes up, we have to share the burden by those of us that pay taxes. I pay just like you do. I don't like it, but it's necessary. If we're going to maintain an A1 fire department, and I have to tell you this, many of you know that I was out for 2 months. I was in the hospital. I had some surgery. I got to the hospital with an ambulance. I dialed 911. And they came. They didn't ask me, how much did you pay in fire tax? Did you pay it all? Did you pay the full amount? No, they saved my life. And that's what it's all about. We as a city collectively have a fire department. And if the budget department feels that because of expenses, and in some cases renovation of some of our aging firehouses, in the last couple of months, we voted to spend money to fix up some of those houses. We've even applied for a government grant to build a new one on the government's dime. The point is that together we're a city. And this must be maintained an A1 service. We're dealing with lives here, not just property values, lives. And it's necessary. I don't like it, I gotta pay it. But I'm voting for it because it's necessary. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Parnas, second by Vice Mayor Hudak. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
No,
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Item number 6 is a resolution of the city of Deerfield Beach, Florida, relating to the collection of nuisance abatement services assessments, adopting findings of fact, approving the rate of assessment for each affected property, adopting the assessment roll, and providing for notice and an effective date.
Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment on this item? Close to the public. Commissioner.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Motion approved, Vice Mayor Hudak, second by Commissioner Parnas. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Claxton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Item number 7 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the city's purchase of the privately owned beach lot located at the north end of Deerfield Beach, legally described as Ocean View 3-34B, Lot 3, Block 2, for $315,000, authorizing execution of documents necessary to effectuate the purchase, providing for implementation and an effective date.
City Manager, any comments?
Yes, Mayor, this property, this opportunity to purchase this property came about to the city. We have negotiated in good faith with the property owner to an amount lower than the appraised value and or the market value, assessed value on market per BCPA. This item is consistent with the City Commission's past objectives to obtain as much of the privately held beach as we can, and this will go to closing in October. Approved.
How many remaining private parcels do we have on our beach?
There may be a difference between the amount of private parcels and ones that are available, because some of them are privately owned by adjacent property owners. But in terms of available properties for purchase, I believe there's one left after this.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment on this item?
Yes, I'd like to get an idea. Is that the one that's known as the one with the trailer on it?
No, that's already been purchased and taken care of. That's owned by the city of Deerfield.
Okay, where is this one? Is
Okay,
that,
we'll let you know.
thank you.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I do need your name and address one more time for the record.
Leanne Kenny, 532 Northeast 8th Avenue.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms. Kelly. Appreciate it. Can we bring up a map and maybe show us where this is located?
We sure can. If I could have Ms. Montemayor pull up maybe the BCPA map. If she can do that, I can also describe it. It's the third parcel from the north at the Boca Deerfield Beach border. So it is just in front of the Emerald Seas Owners Association at 660 Northeast 21st Ave, Deerfield Beach. It is, the parcel is also in the backup, Mayor.
Commissioner Drosky, you had a comment on this.
Yeah, I mean, ever since I've been in office in 2017, I have been a huge proponent of putting the beach parcels into the public domain. I mean, the public may not realize it, but there's actual parcels of sand on the beach that are privately owned in Deerfield Beach. And over time, we've had the opportunities to bring those into the public domain. This is one of two that are left. And we're getting it for less than assessed value. So it's always been a belief of mine that the beach belongs in the public domain, not private. And to get this opportunity, I think we need to take advantage of it. So I will wholeheartedly support this when it comes time for a vote.
So close. So. Everyone see that? You're welcome. Thank you. I think when I first took office, we had 14 parcels originally on the beach for private. So it's good to have that reduced. I'm closing it to the public commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Drosky, seconded by Vice Mayor Hudak. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnston,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Okay, item number 8 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2 Boards, Committees, Commissions of the City Code of Ordinances by creating Division 19 African American Heritage Committee to establish the African American Heritage Committee and provide for its purpose and membership, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. This is second reading. I did my best to try to capture, I think, the comments from and the amendment made from the commission at first reading. So what's before you in terms of the discussion on the makeup of the board is that each commissioner and the mayor.
I think we're on item number 2. Public hearings, is that right?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I was on item number 8.
This would be- I'm having a hard time seeing tonight, my apologies. Go right ahead, my apologies.
No problem. So, I did my best to capture the commission's amendment from the first reading. What you have before you in terms of the makeup of the board would be that each commissioner and the mayor can appoint one regular member and one alternate mayor. And then it was discussed that the mayor would have an additional appointment, alternate member. So that's what's before you today. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. We debated this at length for a long time at our last meeting. And if the board is amenable, I'd like to make a suggestion. Now, we actually talked about each member of the commission getting 2 members and you getting 3, Mayor. But my challenge with that is the effectiveness of the board. If we give everybody 2, and you get 3, you can see that's going to be a lot of people. And so we may be challenged with getting things done. So my suggestion is that we have a board that is in place right now that is preparing for certain events that are coming up. It would be my suggestion that if the commission is amenable, to allow that board to stay in place as a representative of each of you. And then we all get one alternate, but that would leave the board in place and allow it to prepare and do the things that it's already doing now. So if you would allow the board to, each of you get a representative of the board of the existing members, that would really work, and it would allow the board to continue on. So, talk about it if you like or dislike that.
Commissioner Drosky.
I did some more thinking as well on this since first reading, and I really don't see any reason why this board should be differentiated from any other board in the city. So I would like, and it was Commissioner Hudak's, Vice Mayor Hudak's suggestion, I believe, at the very beginning of the debate we had at the last meeting, was to make it like every regular board, is that there's 5 regular members, 5 alternates, and that's it. No 11 member. And I think that's the way that we should go. 5 regular members, because that should encompass the members that we have now. And if somebody inadvertently gets left out, or there's not enough room, I would hope just because they're not on the board, they don't go away, that they would still continue to participate and be involved. So I think that solves the problem. I mean, as to, who gets on the board, I don't know the exact makeup of who is from where, but I mean, I will tell you if it appeases you, or not appeases, but if it helps you any, Commissioner Preston, that my appointment would be Ms. Jackson, who's on the board right now, and she's a District 4 resident. So I think that would help accomplish what you're looking for here. But as far as the makeup and going forward, I like 5 regular members and 5 alternates, and that's it. Just like every other board.
That's what I just agreed to, because for the record. But allowing those existing members to represent you. So now, you said Ms. Jackson is on the board, and she would be your representative. Now it would be to the rest of the commission if they would be amenable to the suggestion.
I can't speak to what others would do.
No, I'm just saying. Just dialogue. Take it easy.
Commissioner Parnas.
I have a question. Does Ms. Jackson live in District 4? Or does that not matter?
She doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but she does.
Okay, I do, that was just a question. So if I have somebody that I want to recommend to the board, they happen to live in District 1, but I'm familiar with their background and feel they would be an asset, I could then recommend that person. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Santucci.
If it assists the commission in any way, we'd be happy to provide the city commission with the current applications of the existing board members.
Well, no matter who, what district the commissioner is from, they're really able to put anybody on the board from anywhere in the city, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's Vice Mayor, that.
No, that was my.
Okay, I agree. I think it needs to be exactly like Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Grossi said, each board member gets a member. One alternative, I don't want to be beholden to just automatically accept people who are currently there, even though I would like to see that board remain intact. So I have no problems. Whoever ends up falling, needs to be nominated by my end, just let me know who it is. Whatever, if anyone wants to appoint, I'm fine with that. Okay.
Mayor, if I may. So based on the discussion, it sounds like I heard a consensus, or at least a few commissioners that were okay with it. If you wanted to approve it without the third appointment, I think you could just make a motion to approve the ordinance with the removal of the third appointment for the mayor. To effectuate it, and then just to be clear, you are not actually appointing board members tonight. So you would need to move this ordinance forward, and then we would bring a resolution back with the appointments.
Yeah.
Would the public want to be able to speak on it?
So what the motion we would be looking for would be just to keep it the way it is, except with the removal of the third board member by me.
Right, so motion to approve with the removal of the third appointment, the third appointment for the mayor.
Correct. Excellent. Thank you. So when that time comes up, make sure it's done that way. I'd like to open to the public. If the public here to comment.
Good afternoon, Sandra Jackson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue. I appreciate you guys making a decision like that. Hopefully we can keep the same people on the board, because as you know, we do have events coming up, and we have been planning for those events who people are familiar with, who can contact. So I hope you guys do decide to keep the same members that we have. We do work together good. And I know even the mayor made a comment to Juneteenth, how well we did. So I appreciate you guys. Hopefully we will keep the same members. If you get an alternate, I have no problem with it, because we do work together. Thank you. And I think the staff will be pleased with that also.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Not seeing anyone, I'll close it to the public. Commissioner Preston.
I'll make the motion that we have the board with each commissioner and mayor getting one appointee with an alternate, and removing the extra member from the mayor. Would that be appropriate to say it like that?
Yes, and you're moving to approve the item with that condition, correct?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Parnas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Item number 9 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending Article 4, Departments, Divisions, Offices, and Agencies of Chapter 2, Administration of the City Code of Ordinances, to revise the names of city departments and provide for organizational charts to be included in the annual budget, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and an effective date. This is second reading.
Commissioner, any comments? The public here to comment on this item. Not seeing anyone, I'll close it to the public. Commission.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion, Vice Mayor Hudak, Second by Commissioner Parnas. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnston,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Dan.
No.
Item number 10 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, amending Chapter 38, Finance and Taxation, Article 6, Miscellaneous Fees of the City Code of Ordinances by creating Section 38-182, Transaction Convenience Fees to provide for the implementation of a convenience fee for use of the credit card, bank debit card, charge card, and electronic funds transfers for payments to the City of Deerfield Beach, providing for conflict severability codification and an effective date. It's the second reading.
Commissioner, any comments? Okay. Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Okay. What is it to the public? Amy Kay, would you like to speak?
Yep.
Well,
I'm coming.
Oh, Amy K. Tanner, 11 Township Avenue for the West Deerfield Beach. I really just have a question. Do we have any idea what that cost is? Is it, like a general cost, or is it decided by how much you pay, or what? That's my question. If we could find out.
thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
And 2532 Northeast 8th Avenue, Deerfield Beach, Florida. Now, question I have on this, is this when you go to pay your bill now, and you're just having it automatically paid by your credit card or whatever, that you guys are now suggesting you have to pay a fee on? Is that what this is suggesting?
What it is that the credit card companies charge us a fee for any transaction that's used to using credit cards, such as parking or anything like that. Those fees have totaled up to be over $750,000 a year towards the city that we're keeping at this point. What we're looking to do is to pass those on directly to the consumer who is using the credit card to pay the fee, as opposed to the city as a whole paying this.
Is that any type of, is that just for parking and so forth? You're talking about that bills people pay like.
So it depends on how your bill's set up. If your bill's set up directly, you like submitted a check and we do automatic pull out, that doesn't get charged because there isn't a credit card charge for that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So.
So it does if you're using a credit card, it doesn't if you're using a check.
Well, if it's a direct pull from your banking account, there's not a fee. It's the charge there.
Okay.
If you put a MasterCard down, and that's what you're paying it on, they charge us a fee. You're gonna have to pay that fee as opposed to the city as a whole paying.
Right now, as it stands, you do not. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
May Francis Fagan, 3500 Southwest Arturo Boulevard, City of Deerfield. I'm here today because sometimes we as seniors, we catch the little city bus.
We're talking about this particular item. If you
Oh,
want
I'm
to talk
sorry.
about public items,
All
it's
right,
okay.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm Marcia Avia, 825 Northeast Fourth Court. Does this fee apply to pay the water bill online?
Again, it depends on how you set it up. If your water bill is pulled directly out of your checking account or anything like that, so if your bank, there isn't a fee there, but if you put down a MasterCard or
Debit card?
debit cards don't apply, is that correct?
Debit cards do go through MasterCard fees.
Okay, so basically if you pay online every month and it's not automated, you will pay the convenience fee?
That's correct.
I just want to get understanding, so.
I need your name. and address.
Sandra Johnson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue. So if we're paying with a debit card, my understanding is that it comes directly from your savings or checking account. So there's gonna be a fee for that? If you use a debit
It
card?
depends on how it's set up. If you submitted your routing number and everything to your checking account, have it automatically pulled out, and then it was pulled out from there. If you've got a debit card on there, there's a charge that is
So it's gonna have to
assessed
be a
to the
checking
city,
account.
and you need to pay that fee.
How about a cash out card?
Pardon?
A cash out?
I don't know.
cash out comes directly from your account. That's money on a card. Is there
There's a
charge for
debit
cash out?
card, so there's a debit card, but there's also a Visa or MasterCard. So that-
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
William Lane, 11 Clifford A, Deerfield Beach. I just wanted to correct you, Mr. Mayor. It wasn't 750,000, it was 800.
Sorry. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's all right.
50,000, correct.
Yeah, that's only $100,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Made it worse. Okay. Else in public? And close it to the public. Do we have anyone online before you do that? Don't see anyone online before you can hold it now. Vice Mayor Hudak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to point out, just for clarification, this is a pass-through fee. Whatever your credit card charges the city is what you will be charged. So there are some credit cards that have cashback rewards, and those fees are higher. There are other credit cards that will have a much lower fee. That's the fee that you would encounter, as opposed to the city taking on that fee. That fee would be passed on to yourself. So depending if you use an American Express card, it's going to be a lot more than if you use a debit card. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's not that the city is looking to make a profit on any of this. This is whatever the fees that the city is being charged for you to use the card that you chose. That's what the fee is going to be returned back to the resident.
I think that answers your question. There isn't a flat rate for the charge. It depends on what the card charges. Okay. Any other comments on that, City Manager?
No additional comments, Mayor.
And Mr. Lane, I'm pretty sure I said over 750,000. Just be vague when you don't know the numbers exactly, be vague. Thank you, Bill. Commission, I close this to the public comments.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, one from Vice Mayor, second by Commissioner Parnas. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
and Mayor Mia.
No.
We are now at the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. This is the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight. The time for public comment for items that are on the agenda is after I read the title into the record, and the public comment period for that item is opened up. And a reminder, no comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibility shall be permitted.
My name is Rick George, 203 Northeast State Terrace, Deerfield Beach, Florida. I'm going to try really hard to stick to those regulations there. I'm reading out of, this is concerning the rezoning that's coming up for a road on property on Federal Highway, 2nd Street by the old Drummond building, and the adjacent property with this vacant lot. The Christmas trees have been sold on for as long as I can remember. I'm reading out of section 9668 of the Plan Development District, letter A, under proposed purpose, intent, and intent. There's a section in there that states that the sites must demonstrate that they have unique property considerations and that rezoning of the property to a PDD district would provide a public benefit that would otherwise not be permitted if all regulations governing land use and development of that site are not met. This is a 277 unit rental apartment building. I'm correct, it's a rental apartment building. So it's not condominium. There's going to be a turnover on that. I don't know that the city of Deerfield is, in need of something like that. I don't understand how these are unique property considerations for that rezoning under that section alone. When we go down to A4, a high quality of design materials that's integrated throughout the site will be complementary and enhance the surrounding neighborhood and the city as a whole. I don't know how it's going to enhance a residential neighborhood. There are several things that it will not do. Enhance it is not one of them. The very next one, number 5, the preservation and enhancement of desirable site characteristics, natural or man-made, including but not limited to vegetation, geological features, and historical features. I believe also includes skyline. When I walk out of my house, that my property taxes just double. If the proposed budget goes through, I'm at almost $10,000 a year for property taxes. I'm gonna walk out, I'm gonna look at the back of a almost 6-story, 7-story apartment complex. It's going to completely alter the site, the skyline. Forget about what it's going to do to the floodplain and the water runoff, and where that's going to get. We'll get to that in a second. Then there's the traffic considerations that are also to be taken in. And then there's other things that you're already aware of, like the fire rescue and the connections, the FPC connections, which are important to fight a fire inside a building like that, and the special considerations that have been made. There's been a lot of special considerations made for something that's not necessarily showing any kind of hardship or under the current zoning. Under G, in the same ordinance, evaluating criteria, the city commission shall consider at minimum following criteria in evaluating proposed people.
Would you like another minute, Mr. George? George, would you like another minute? Would you like another minute?
Yes, if you don't mind, please, thank you. Number 3, under G, it states that the provided land or combination of land uses that are arranged and designed in such a manner will be well integrated with other land uses, the immediate surrounding area, and the planned thoroughfare system. This is going to impact a neighborhood from multiple different ways. If we have to petition close 4th Street and go through that, you're taking a neighborhood that gets along, and you're going to pit people against each other. We start getting traffic calming in there, it's going to ruin the quality of life. You alter that skyline and increase the density. And anybody that thinks that even though 2nd Street's a collector street, there are traffic from 277 revolving individuals that may have 2 cars. So you can have 400, 500 something is going to impact that. They will be accessing through our neighborhood. It doesn't.
Thank you, Mr. George. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I know many of you here tonight to talk on this issue, because I think there's some confusion this is going to be presented. And first off, thank you for being here. This is tremendous that you're here. This really helps us do our job, number one. It's going to be a little difficult tonight to kind of debate some of the issues or hear some of the issues when we don't have the presentation in front of us and what's there. And quite frankly, it's the last time it came before us, and there wasn't as big a turnout, so I'm so glad you're here. Many things have changed. I honestly couldn't tell you what exactly the current proposal is now, because I haven't seen what they're presenting to us. That's coming up the first meeting in October. For all of you here tonight, what would probably be the most helpful is for each one of you who are, however you feel on the project, whether you're for or against it, come up, state your name and address, and say, if we have concerns or we're against this project, we can debate at the times when it's presented to us all those specific issues. It'll probably be a lot easier to do that as opposed to trying to rehash and go over the specifics of a project that's not in front of us. It'd be more effective to do that, if that's okay. You can say whatever you want, but I'm just making that suggestion to you all. So I have no problem with every single one of you coming up and saying whatever you want, but just a suggestion. Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Letty Cronin, 869 Northeast 4th Street. We actually agree with you. There's actually a meeting that we saw the sign for that's October 3rd. I don't know if that's the meeting that is the same one here. You're all under the same page about the zoning. The zoning is what we're really concerned on, and we want that vote postponed. And it's just concerning because of traffic. I was the kid that almost got hit. Sean Paul back there, who's my brother, who will be speaking. is the kid who did get hit, which is why 4th Street got closed down in the first place. Safety is a huge concern. The height and privacy is a huge concern. And even the dog park is a huge concern because that amount of animals, it's just a lot of things. So that's just a very quick rundown. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Mayor, can I jump in? She
Yes.
mentioned October 3rd, which is a Monday. When,
I think we'll let Vice Mayor address that. That's okay. Yes, go right ahead.
Wonderful. These individuals are here at my recommendation, because I wanted them to articulate the challenges, as the mayor said, and then said earlier, let's not repeat if we've got, challenges that we have not articulated, please do so. But I have called a District 1 meeting for next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be here at City Hall, and there's only one subject, and it's this property. The developer has accepted, so they will be here so that they can answer any concerns or challenges that we have. We'll also have some city staff here as well. So that was the whole idea for our meeting next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, right here in City Hall. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's got the date and the time. Again, that's when we'll be able to debate some things because the developer will be here, his representative will be here, I'll be here, as well as selected city staff as needed.
Would you, Commissioner Drosky, do you want to do that?
I just want to make sure that that meeting is sunshine in case any of us up here want to attend. City manager? Take your turn.
If two or more of you are going to be in attendance at that meeting, you should provide notice of that meeting. Minutes would need to be taken. It needs to be open to the public.
I would encourage. We've got it. Thank you. I just thought it was an echo back there. I wasn't sure. Okay, so we're all right there. Just kidding. Go right ahead. Sorry.
Leanne Kenny, 532 North Mesquite Avenue. I'm here. I was opposing the building project as it is now proposed. Nobody wants it. It's 100% no from the community. We already have an overabundance of traffic and safety issues. We have a school, a church, a daycare center, Pioneer Park, all its voting traffic, City Hall, Northeast Focal Point, and so much more. We already get all the cut-through traffic that wants to avoid Hillsborough and US 1. Not only does it affect District 1, but it also affects District 2, all the way to Northwest 3rd, Martin Luther King, and beyond. As it is proposed right now, the builder makes the money, the property owner makes the money, the contractor makes the money, and God only knows who else. The community is left with all the hardships that proposal would bring. Please vote no, but since you're not voting tonight, a little bit to think on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Francis Bacon, 3500 Northwest Central Boulevard. I'm here on behalf of seniors of the city bus. It's supposed to be active seniors, but we're not as quick as we used to be. And with that being said, when the buses come, if we're not out there running to catch it, that's not what it's supposed to be about. And they don't stop. If you're not standing out there with your leg cocked out there, they don't stop. They keep riding right on by. So what's the purpose of having it? If we got to do that, then you need to take it off, take it out the budget. You don't need it because it's not beneficial. And then you don't have, when you're on one and you want to get on two, they don't have a way to communicate with each other to find out if two have gone already. So you got to go sit somewhere for an hour or 2 hours. If you leave home at 11 o'clock, you don't get back home till 4 o'clock. That's not right. We have medication that we have to take and we have to eat. So it's not fair that we have to do this at this age. And it's supposed to be a service that's provided for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sandra Jackson. I want to put in for everything else going on. I came to you guys a while back in reference to something that happened when I hit a pothole with my car. Okay. City Manager, David. I sent an email to you in reference to the additional tire because I have 2 separate tires on my car. And like I told the lady from your John Eastern who handled your claim, she told me I had a choice to get the same tire, which I told them they was not in. The tires I have on my car were much more expensive, but it was not in, so I had to get a cheaper tire. My car, as I said before, is riding uneven and rough. I'm still waiting for payment. I'm not gonna sign something where they wanna just waive everything, and once I sign it, I can't get the other tire replaced. So I'm coming to the commissioners and the mayor, vice mayor, and also to the city manager and the city attorney. Can someone please speak with them in reference to getting that additional tire on my car so I can go ahead and get the alignment on my car? My car is riding rough and it's not right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Marcia Avant, 825 Northeast Fourth Court, and this is about the zoning for that neighborhood. None of us want this. I have lived in that area for 30 years. It's a nice, quiet, serene neighborhood, mostly because there's no, it's so little world back there. There's also been problems with the Airbnbs. The house next to me was sold in November. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-story house, and the new owners have bought it and changed it into a 6-bedroom house. There has been constant parties, human trafficking, selling of drugs. There have been times I have been afraid to call the police because I have been, walking my dog in the neighborhood and they would know that it would be me complaining. They are having these parties within 5 feet of my bedroom window at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And the only reason why I haven't called in the last month and a half is because they're doing more renovations. But I have probably placed at least 20 phone calls to the police regarding just this one property. And I would like to see this, and I have complained and I have tried everything possible, but I get stonewalled. And this was not even licensed as an Airbnb until I complained about it. The city let it get by without being licensed. And I would like to see the city impose some sort of restrictions on there. I mean, there's been like 20, 30 people at this place all at one time, just having a good time. I mean, it's not a family vacation, which is what Airbnbs are supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marcia says, 825, 517 Northeast 6th Avenue. I also have concerns about this proposed apartment complex, especially considering that there's a school. What I understand is the traffic study came from 2020 that was used to see if this was a proposal that would affect the traffic. That was a time of lockdown. So it doesn't seem like that would be accurate. So I would like to propose that any vote on this be postponed until a new traffic study is done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Just
have
give it to
another
the city
time
clerk,
to share.
so take care of it. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Amy Kay Tanner, 111 Southeast Fifth Avenue, in Tanner Road, Deerfield Beach. It's interesting that lady came to talk about Airbnb. That's why I'm here. In 1969, James Stills built a beautiful 3-bedroom house, 4-bedroom house at 63 Southeast Fifth Avenue, and raised his family there, and got old there and died. And then Janice moved on to be cared for. And now that house has been purchased next door to me for an Airbnb. I'm distressed. Do we have a framework for Airbnb? Do we, I'm asking, the city has that, I would like to know what that is. Because this is just before it kicks in as a busy Airbnb. An employee working for the remodeling, got a distressing phone call, jumped in his car, flew away and ran into the side of my car. And that was just that, that happened. My property was damaged. Do we have stuff in place that protects us that have lived in, built the city a lot of years? I don't know. I'm curious. I wanted to know if we have a framework to deal with Airbnb. I know it's been a problem in other areas. Boca has real problems. But anyway, I would like to know what we're doing about it. Thank you.
Good morning, or good afternoon, thank you. My name is April Bolovich. I'm at 899 Northeast 4th Street. And I had a number of things I wanted to talk to you about, but I'm just gonna stick to one that's particularly important to me because it's right by my house. As you can see on this, I wanted to go through some traffic, show you my traffic concerns as it pertains to our area here. Northbound on US 1, if you want to go home to this proposed 277 unit building, you have to go, if you're going to turn, you have to go either left on 2nd Street and filter through the neighborhood and out and back out and off of Federal. To go, this is highway traffic. You're gonna have to wait your turn to get in there because it's one at a time to get in. If you don't turn left at 2nd Street, which is right here, you're gonna go past your entrance, past 4th Street. You're gonna go to the foot of the Hillsborough River Bridge and make a U-turn. You're gonna wait your turn, you're gonna make a U-turn in front of the high traffic. This is kind of like a blind corner. It's the same concept. You don't see highway speed traffic until it's right at its crest of the hill. So you turn around and you pass 2nd Street, you pass 4th Street again, and turn left and you're still waiting your turn. Everybody that goes up here to come around has to wait their turn in that little U-turn spot. This is gonna be 277 people coming this way. And I say 277 because for the most part, everybody has 2 cars. So you got half of them coming this way. And the other thing I wanted to note is we're surrounded by water over here. There's kind of one way in, one way out on 2nd Street and on 4th Street. Now, when you have this much traffic coming in and banging that U-turn right there, you've also got all this other traffic for people who chose not to do that, filtering in through here. You can see the eastbound arrow at Northeast 4th Street. That's right turn only, southbound only onto Federal Highway. So you're gonna have all this traffic coming out here on 4th Street, intersecting with all this traffic that's banging a U-turn on, when people are trying to get home after work. There's no way there's not gonna be gridlock there. We hear the crashes from my house. You see that right there? That is my house. We hear the crashes that happen here because the skidding starts here. I can really identify with your story, Mr. Parnas, because I was taken from the home by an ambulance a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Spent a little time in the hospital, but it was a 911 call. And that's not the only time that's happened at my house. We've had fire trucks at my house. We've had another 911 call, and that's just one house. I'm not the only person here on this block. That's a pretty high risk. I've been there 20 years, 22 years. It's not a risk I'm willing to accept. I would like to ask you to postpone the voting change and also deny the request for 200 approval. I want you guys to please deny the request for 277 story or 277 unit building. Feels like stories. But there's 200. Because we can't.
Yeah.
Well, I know my time's up.
At least you need to mute the microphone, that's all.
Hi, I'm Stefan Bolowicz, 899 Northeast Fourth Street, here with my wife. I want to reiterate what the other lady said about the traffic study, not being, it's kind of, it's a COVID traffic study. It's not done during a normal time. Now even it's not even normal. The other thing, I think they have a flawed idea there. Their whole concept kind of brings down the neighborhood. They should really, instead of 277, maybe half that and up the price and cut everything in half and just charge twice as much. Same profit, different models. I think they flawed the model. Thank you.
My name is Jim Bass, 515 Northeast State Avenue, Deerfield Beach. Commissioners, when I moved into Deerfield Beach, what we did was my wife and I looked around and decided where we'd like to buy, what was available. We examined the zoning. We really did this. We examined the property values that were there and the potential. I did not buy my house anticipating that there would be a zoning change. Zoning was there for a reason. We expect it to remain as it is. The presence of any apartment buildings in the proximity of anybody's house there is depressive for property values. There's no two ways about it. I feel particularly sorry for people whose property abuts the proposed changes. I'm about a block and a half away, but it would be catastrophic to those people. It should not be changed. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sean Cronin at 869 Northeast 4th Street. Buddy's brother is my alias. I'm here to talk about the 277 unit building as well. I don't want to take too much time, but as my neighbor, Mr. George here said, that the views out of outside of his house, it's going to be ruined. The view outside of this city hall is also going to be ruined. It is going to tower over the school. It is going to tower over the church. It is going to tower over everything. You're not going to be able to see the sunrise in the morning the way you can now. Not that you can see it too beautifully because of the condos that are all the way over on the beach already, but it's now moving west. And you can see the direction we're headed here. They've already tried to buy up the properties around the unit that they're doing. They've tried to make it a dog park, which I'll get to in a quick second. And so they tried to buy all those duplexes. They're going to try to do the same exact thing. Why wouldn't they? These are property developers. They don't think the way people think. They don't have that emotional side of things. And so that worries me as a resident. I've been here for all 25 years of my life. I hit my head outside of my house and had to get airlifted to the hospital by a godsend, Matt Pelletieri next door. Thank God he was there. And I had to get through a lot of these things that we deal with. And so the traffic issues, the people, and I'm just going to move on from there, but you get what I'm trying to say. So the view's going to be rough. The church, you see the church. I'm sure you drive by it. They already are blocking off their parking lot because of the traffic issues that are currently there. And what we're doing is we're adding 277 more units to what? More traffic? And what are they going to do when they get stuck behind the school? They're going to filter their way down next to the library, next to our, coming right down, come across 4th Street. And that's literally exactly why everybody is upset with it, or not one of the many big reasons why it's upset with. We're all upset with it. I do want to touch on, just to make notification for a lot of people here. Some people might not know. I didn't know this, but there's potentially going to be a Chick-fil-A in that bank building next to the Dunkin' Donuts. Potentially. Now, I don't say that's a bad thing, but that just shows a modernization of our area, no matter what. And that's perfectly fine. We don't mind the modernization, but there's going to be a Dunkin' Donuts, a Chick-fil-A, a 277 unit apartment complex, all with entrances and exits on the same street, with minimal access to any of them. That is improper planning at its definition. And not let alone, we already have a lot of policemen that are, that thank God they're here, that the precinct, I believe is what you call it, I was an economics major, so yeah, no, the substation, there you go. Right here, we have cops parked out right out here in Pioneer Park all the time, watching people fly down Second Ave. What's gonna happen when we put 277 more buildings there? And finally, based on the statistics on Google, 40% of Americans, really, most of them are around 37 to 38%, own dogs specifically. 277 units, 40%, 38% really. I did the math, it's about 105 people, 105 dogs. We don't have 105 people that live in our neighborhood right now. let alone 105 dogs. So when you add all those people, it's going to fall apart. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say this for everyone. One of the issues you have is, and sometimes developers do this as a technique, is they wear you out with too many meetings. You get 50 people at the first meeting, and they say, let's postpone it, let's talk next another meeting. And we get 30 people at the next meeting, then you get 15 at the next meeting, then you have 8 at the final meeting when the decision's being made. So I love the fact that you're all here, and I'm going to ask those of you who have issues with this project, please raise your hand. Okay. If you still want to come to the podium, you're absolutely, I encourage it, but I don't want you to get burnt out on making your arguments. There's going to be a time and a place to do it, and I would much rather have you guys ready and full of fire on that night than burn yourselves out tonight. But I'm not trying to stop you from talking. I'm just trying to give you a little advice. Getting practice. Practice. That's okay. That's fine.
Paul Booth, 203 Northeast 9th Avenue. That's on the corner of 2nd and 9th. So I would be looking right at the back of their building. Okay. Enough said here. Enough said here. I second your motion. If we get a count or whatever, so that everybody doesn't have to come up here and go home and have their dinner, would that be acceptable?
You guys have, I think your point has been made here tonight. I don't think there's anybody up here who's blind or deaf.
To postpone the vote is one of the main reasons we're here, and we'll hash that out next week.
Well, there's no vote tonight. I just
No
thought.
vote tonight. Totally have not voted.
Right. So you have a meeting with Commissioner Hudak that he's hosting to discuss this, and is going to have the developer there. You're going to see what the facts are, what they're presenting, and then you're going to be able to share your concerns at that point. And then it's going to come before all of us in the commission formally, and you're going to have that opportunity again to be able to do that.
Before the vote.
Well, the night of the vote, you will be here. The night of the vote, you will be here. I'm hoping to. I want all of you to come back. That's what I'm asking. I don't want you to get burned out. I need you to come back.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more comments.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring you, can I bring you up at the end? I got more people. You come back up in a moment. I'll call you back up. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, Richard Rosenzweig, 970 Farnham Meeting, Century Village. I'm glad you people are here tonight. What I'm here to talk about is something totally different, and I understand your concerns and appeals. I'm here to talk about the commission. I understand that you've got an item coming in the ballot coming up in November on the 3rd term for the commission's that direct ballot. Have you put that through on the ballot, sir? For a 3rd term.
I'm sorry, what are you? Go ahead and say what you want to say, and we'll talk again.
Okay. And if you're going for a 3rd term, changing the city charter, to change to 2 terms per term, and going for a 3rd term, my question is why? What is the issue that this needs addressing? What problem is there in Deerfield Beach that term limit extension is trying to solve? Whose benefit? Is this a necessary step to solve a problem for the city residents? At what expense? We're facing high taxes, high inflation, and other costs coming in on us. At this time, why do we look for more expense? Is there an actual observable problem? There's still an issue of self-interest and fairness. Is this a real or perceived problem for good governance? All elections are all things start at the local level. And in this level, the Deerfield Beach seen making changes to procedure and laws in the city. And if these were to be accepted, and the city charter is changed, what's to stop having a 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th term and make a job out of it? To avoid the appearance of old Florida self-dealing, this provision should apply only to new commissioners elected to the commission in order to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Failing to do that would forever tarnish the reputation of the entire commission You see, if they're beach. So I suggest we look into this and say, why do we need a third term? And people are asking, we're hearing that people are asking you to run for a third term. I know people, I've not found anybody that's asked for that third term that I know of in my city. I know in the village, I know that things have happened. But I wonder, why are we doing this? For what purpose? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Will Smith. I live at 227 Northeast St. Paris. I actually work for DOT on design engineering of traffic control. But they have acquired this document here that was first put for DOT in 2018. They didn't send in any of the criteria like the stormwater pollution, anything over an acre. The utilities out front won't hold that type of water coming, that's going to create more storm sewer water. And I want to know why 2000, it went 2018, 2019, and then again to October of 2020. And yet none of the criteria have been met, like the storm water, utility replacement, the giving up the DOT access, which is 25 feet, they're going to have to give to DOT on US 1. And I haven't seen any record of any of these studies that are required. This is only a pre-application. So they're insinuating that they got a DOT permit, which is not true. The traffic study is not true. The stormwater pollution is not true. Moving those utilities. The budget is ridiculous. There's 7 fiber carriers running down through there. Besides up here, plus your water, plus the storm sewer. And they're gonna have to dig a retaining pond, or they're gonna have to enlarge all the storm sewer to accommodate. And it says 1 acre, this is almost 2.5. And I would like to see where that report, this is only a pre-application. They haven't given any of this information to DOT yet. So I believe that this should be postponed. One, for a true DOT traffic study, and also for the storm water runoff that they are not going to be able to use in the existing lines. Besides, the budget was $337,000 for the FP&L. Well, there's 6 other carriers that aren't addressed. That's a concern of mine. I would like to see these documents. They have not got a permit. They haven't even completely filled out the application for the permit. And that's the reason I want this postponed.
Here.
If you've already spoke, I'm going to have you back up. Anyone else that has not spoke yet? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jenny Lee. I live at 507 Avenue. As you can hear, I wasn't born in Deerfield Beach, but I've been living here for about 2 years, and I've been coming here every year for the past 2 decades, at least 3 months a year, because all of my family live here. And I am not great at sales, but I really want to present to the Commission an opportunity for sustainable development in the form of the Ivor Town International Film Festival, which I founded and which I run. I've been running in London successfully for the past 16 years. I'm going to try to do this within 3 minutes. 3 good reasons for the film festival. My personal experience of telling a story that I've kept hidden for a long time showed me that the power and the freedom that storytelling brings. I also went to Mozambique on a mission trip and met this wonderful young woman who wanted to travel the world and so on, but was reminded that she couldn't do all of that without an education. And her response was Nada Pangam School, which means I will tell people about the importance of an education and it's the power of storytelling to catalyze change. We all know the kind of stories we've seen over there, documentaries, dramas, animation, of people from completely different parts of the world that have a kind of connection with us because deep calls unto deep, and it gives us new perspectives on the world. So those kind of three experiences happened at a similar time when I started the film festival 16 years ago. We showed dramas, docs, animation, short films from over 50 countries around the world. We partner with Netflix, Lionsgate, Disney, as well as upcoming and emerging filmmakers. We have Q&As afterwards with the likes of Dame Sybil Phoenix, Raymond Santana, Central Park 5, Lashana Lynch, and so on. So what does that have to do with Deerfield Beach? So at the beginning of this year, I spoke with CRA. A few months ago, I spoke with you, Mayor, about the film festival. I've also spoken more recently with Vice Mayor Michael Hudak and Commissioner Ben Preston. My apologies, I haven't got to everyone yet on this. And so I'm just going to run through really quickly some of the key benefits that it can bring to my city, which it is now, and which I hope that you will take on. So film festivals are really kind of microeconomies of sustainable development. You've already been hearing a lot tonight about some development that people don't think are very sustainable because it harms future generations. But with film festivals, they're sustainable forms of development. It instills a community. I just need to read my writing. Let me just make this a bit bigger. It instills community pride and community cohesion, which is one of the key things that I think would be really helpful within Deerfield Beach. It was in the CRA report. The council established Deerfield as a center of excellence in film, and especially at a time when there's so much happening in film around the world, and film being at the forefront of things. Yes, please, I'll be really quick. It gives younger people opportunities for working in creative services, as well as a reason for staying in the city. It creates jobs and it develops the city's national and international links. It gives an incredible return on interest. If you look at a big festival like Sundance, in 2019, out of town visitors spent about $150 million within the city and created over 3,000 jobs and put Utah on the map. Smaller festivals like Sheffield Documentary Film Festival in the UK, for instance, made about £99 in '94. But in 2019, the cabinet minister said, we've got to keep this festival going because we would lose £2 million if we don't. So I think I've only got a minute left. For this to succeed, for a film festival to really succeed, is a threefold call of industry, of cultural managers, and political stakeholders. So I really need your help. I did try to get this put on the agenda. Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emma Nessler. I live at 869 Northeast 4th Street.
I'm so sorry, your name is one more time.
Emma Nessler.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate what all of my neighbors and community members have also said about this development. And also to add that none of us were really properly notified, and it's to my understanding that our commission is not properly notified as well. And also just thank you so much for your time and for listening to us. It's very important.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's what I'm gonna do. We're not allowed to come back after you spoke once, but I'm gonna ask you to come up to answer a question for me. If you don't mind coming up, sir. What was the question you wanted to say?
I didn't have a question.
And what was the statement you wanted to make?
I regret that I didn't add this before, but my name again is Jim Bass, 515 Northeast 8th Avenue. It's very obvious that this is a very unpopular thing. I've lived through a number of things in Deerfield Beach in my tenure here that should have never happened, but did. And one of them is called the Dragon Club. And the other one is the same thing with the marina that was built in association with the Dragon Club. Anybody is aware here that that marina was first built illegally, that the plans that were submitted to Deerfield Beach were not complied with, and they added an extra tier to the building. That's why it went down in Wilmot. Anybody knows about that accident? It was a catastrophe. The two of them should have never happened, should have never gotten a CO, but it did. Let's not let that happen again.
Thank you. I have. I'm not sure you're the right person to answer this question for me, but I have a question. The road closure that was talked about, can you give me a little history on that?
I believe that was as a consequence of the driving club to stop people from driving back and forth.
What year approximately? I think there's somebody else who might be able to answer that question better. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'll let somebody else come on up and answer that question for me, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there someone who can answer that question for me? I think you two know each other, so that's okay.
We
You can talk at the same time.
April and Stefan Bowler, 899 Northeast 4th Street.
In 2002, there were 10 kids on Northeast 4th Street, all under the age of 10. That's the picture. Most of them are here in the audience today, living in their own houses, still in the same neighborhood.
Emma, Letty, Paul.
Garrett. Anyway, they're adults now. They graduated college.
You guys have gotten
They're
definitely
living
bigger
on their own.
since
Yes, they are much bigger and they speak better. But the question, to answer your question, because so many kids were under the age of 10, and we had so many different really close calls, and Sean Paul getting hit, Brittany Pelletari's bicycle was hit in the front yard and dragged halfway down the block to be deposited in the cemetery. That's a 4 a.m. liquor license. Roadhouse used their 4 a.m. liquor license and poured the alcohol freely. I've also got a blow up of a drunk guy passed out in the yards. I mean,
So
it was so bad.
2002 was the year that they made
That was 2002, and they reopened it. It was temporary because kids were young, kids had grown up. We agreed. They took the barriers down about 7 or 8 years later. Leanne might remember.
Polarized the
It's been 20 years since Leanne and I have spoken.
I remember when it reopened. I just can't remember why it closed.
A petition was able to make it close, revisiting it, changing the way the votes were counted, disenfranchising tenants and renters instead of property owners, and then including properties that weren't built completely and had notice of not commencement, but to move into a house.
Yeah.
They were still the CO. They were still under construction. Those votes got included, which flipped the whole board. We surely don't want to polarize the neighborhood again.
We don't
didn't
want
like closing for it, but
No,
the impact will be.
Yeah, no, that's a question that needed answered, so I
The impact
appreciate
is
that.
huge.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
They went there, I heard back.
Yeah, I'll take it back. There's
Yeah.
a lot of memories in there.
Yeah.
I think you're needed again.
I don't know, we're pretty few
I'm-
kids. They are.
I'm gonna ask you, actually, ma'am, I'm gonna give this back to you because I want to make sure you have this. I don't want you to have to go. through
Oh, I
this
have
Pennsylvania.
plenty. For you.
I'm gonna keep this up here then. So, I don't see anyone online. Is anyone else in the public to speak? Anyone else here tonight care to speak? All right, I'm gonna close it to the public. Sir, I'm gonna ask you to save it for when we have it in front. You've already spoken once. If that's all right.
To make sure these documents.
I understood what your question was, what you said.
I was here when
Sir?
nobody was here by myself during the disease. I'm the only guy that was on there.
Yeah, it was there.
I had the same question back then. None of these documents.
I can't answer your question right now, is my concern, is what I'm telling you. I definitely heard it the first time. Because we don't have the developer in front of us to be able to see what they're trying to do. I would much rather ask those questions than to do that. That's all right. But I appreciate you being here.
I think it should be postponed for these arrests.
So here's the unique thing, and staff, correct me if I'm wrong. They have the ability to put themselves on the agenda if they like. They paid the money to come forward. They want to do that. They can get here and go through the time and expense, and the commission can say, we're going to postpone this and move this on. And they're going to have to come back and redo their whole dog and pony show again. We have the ability to do that. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
We can defer it for a certain period of time, but they can push to get a vote if they do not want to defer it.
So what I'm saying is, we don't necessarily have the ability to tell them right now, postpone something that's not even before us right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. We could ask, but we can't require it.
Right. We can ask, but we can't require it. So I can't say tonight, we're gonna postpone it. That night, we can. We can postpone it. We can't do it here tonight. All right, we can ask them. And I would imagine Monday, after they walk out of here or limp out of here, I would imagine, Tuesday when they limp out of here, I have a feeling they might not be rushing to get in front of us. I'm just gonna guess, especially if all of you show up, okay, and bring friends. So, again, I really appreciate you being here. I don't want you to get burned out. I really need you here when we have the vote in front of us. That's going to be very, very helpful. If you have any questions, give me a call. My number is 954-816-1936.
We got it.
We know. It's on the website. It's easy to get. If you have any complaints, call Commissioner Preston. And Commissioner Hudak's available between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. But honestly, thank you all for being here tonight. To answer a couple of questions, yes, we have things in place for Airbnb. We've been fighting against Airbnbs for a long time. The city doesn't allow them just to sneak in and not have them register. We have to find out about them by people reporting them. That's the way we do it. So once they're reported, we can do that. And I'm sure the city manager, I'm gonna let him talk about that a little bit more, but we do have rules and regulations in place. Problem is, they're also defended pretty heavily by Tallahassee. So we have this battle going around where we try to put things in place, and we're limited in what we can do. We do have a registration policy in which you're supposed to be registered with the city. They have to pay for that. City manager, you want to get a little more detail about that?
Mayor, thank you. We do have a registration requirement in place, and unfortunately, that's about the extent of the enforcement or the difference that we can have over an Airbnb over a regular residence. The state allows us to regulate them in the same way, otherwise, in the same way that we would do a residence just adjacent to that property. And so unfortunately, we're left with viewing that property in the same manner as we would any other residence as it relates to noise, code violations, law enforcement activities, those sorts of things. And so that's why it is important for those things to be reported when we do have them in the registration system. It allows us to monitor the amount of calls that we do get at the property and to enforce them in a more stringent way. The City Commission did recently pass an ordinance to increase the amount of the daily fine in line with state statute. So when we do have nuisance properties, whether it's an Airbnb or not, nothing specific to Airbnbs, we do have the ability to fine those properties a little bit more heavy-handedly than we did previously.
And they're pretty protected by the state, correct?
That's correct, Mayor. The state passed a law several years ago now, I think it was 2014, that restricts local governments such as the city of Deerfield Beach from prohibiting vacation rentals or limiting the duration or frequency of vacation rentals. If you live in a community association, homeowner association, condo association, you may have governing regs that can do it, but the city and the city commission cannot.
Yeah, so that's the fun part about having to deal with Tallahassee with having our hands tied with some of these issues like that. There was, not yet, if you don't mind, let me just get through everything I have here.
Is it possible to ask a question?
We can talk afterwards if that's all right. If you have a question, if you have a concern, and if you don't want to call the police, call me. Give me a call. So if you feel uncomfortable with it, give us a call. We're going to have BSO talk to you tonight and make sure that we put that on the radar. If there's an issue in Ms. Tanner, we'll do the same thing to make sure they talk to you so you can put it on the radar. Someone pulling out of their driveway and hitting your car like that can happen anytime. It just happens to be with the worker of the Airbnb, but we know the impact it has in our neighborhood. It's not positive, you know. So while there are people who like to follow the rules, but we know the majority of them don't. So it is a problem. We're limited what we can do, but we certainly want to know where they're at. So please let us know. And we'll have BSO talk to you right after.
That's what my question is. How do I let you know?
She's gonna come right on down and talk. I think that's it. I'm gonna close it to the public. Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Parnas.
Well, when it comes to the Airbnb, I'm gonna always be sympathetic with our residents. And, we're talking about, the Tallahassee protecting the Airbnb, but Tallahassee needs to protect the residents. Because at 5 o'clock in the morning, an Airbnb person was beating on my door saying, "Let me in this house." Beating on the door, woke me up out of a sound sleep. Beating on the door as hard as he could. Yes, I did all the things that I needed to do, but can you imagine that? I went from the back door to the front door saying, "Let me in." And so, yeah, there's something needs to be done. And then, not knowing what the situation was, he was laying on the lawn. I really thought that he was shot or something. I didn't open the door. BSO came and they did a really good job at, dealing with the situation. And what it was, that he was so drunk. He had gotten out of an Uber and went to the wrong house. Instead of going right, he went left and was beating on the door, trying to get in. And so I can understand that, you look at a business or somebody trying to do something, you don't want anything, to be prejudiced against, someone that's trying to do something for an Airbnb. The question becomes, at what risk? What risk? What happens if that guy actually gets into my house? What happens? What happens? Do we ignore that? Well, I wasn't, I've not forgotten it. And till right now, and it hasn't gone away. It still bothers me. Because if you can imagine being completely asleep and somebody beating, trying to get into your house, you're not going to deal with it well. And it's not going to be an experience that is simply going to go away simply because it ended up being what I just told you it was. So those that are in law enforcement, and I'm talking about, you did look at that from the Tallahassee side, you need to look at what could happen to the residents as well.
Okay, Commissioner Preston. Can you imagine banging on the wrong door and having Anchorage Commissioner Preston? Commissioner Parnas?
People ask me, well, what can we do about it? Tallahassee's tied the city's hands. Well, you can do something about it. I don't care what your party is, what your politics are. You got a representative that said, city ain't got no rights. We like Airbnb, stick it. You don't have to put that person back in office, do you? You have the choice. Our hands are somewhat tied. They passed a law that says, keep your little hands away from our R&Bs. You can change that quicker than we can. Think about that. Doesn't matter what party they are. Somebody votes totally against your city and against your interests. Why are they still in office? It's no different with the commission. People ask me, why do we need a third term? I say, leave it up to the voters. They feel a particular mayor or commissioner is doing a good job. We'd like to keep them around another 4 years. Why shouldn't they have that right? 2/3 of the cities in Broward County do not have a 2-term limit. Most have no limit. Some have 3 terms. I ask that they go on the ballot, let you make the choice. If you like the mayor, you like a commissioner in your district, you want to keep them a 3rd term, it should be up to the voters. Now, if you do a rotten job, there are commissioners that only served 1 term and ran. The voters didn't like them. So what happened? They're no longer in office. The choice is always up to the voters. The same with R&B. You don't like R&Bs in your neighborhood? Find out who voted to put them in there and then do something about it.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, I think we're ready to move on. I think we answered
Okay.
all of the questions and we will get to you about the bus. So,
Thank you.
The next item is item number 11. We're on consent board appointments. There are
we're going to take a 2-minute recess. If you want to go eat. Nobody.
Yeah, hi.
Sorry. Sorry. To the moment.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to clear your name out, but I moved it along.
They lost last week, but they had.
The little. The grandson or the great grandson?
My grandson. I got a break yet. I'm getting one. I'm getting one. He's going to, he's getting the, care. Yeah, she's gonna have to, actually, he's going to get a surgery next month. He got to get a surgery. But he's doing good. The school, we're holding therapy and stuff. So, I know she's working with stuff that's the Lord. They have on the bus like 4 hours. And they like the computers. Actually, I think she like this shit down. So she had, she wrote consent code, she wrote everybody. So, hopefully something gets done.
What about your other grandson?
Yeah, he actually, they had him all on TV, they lost. Yeah, he was the first day when I was 2 dollars. He's,
That was one of the times I was.
Yeah, Conan and Heidi.
Yeah.
Well,
but
he's fast.
Listen, like your kid.
Yeah, they got bigger. They got a little bigger, but, yeah, they do carrying him, but most of the corners and stuff, but they have like, they kept showing him. Yeah, they kept showing him, but they lost, they played against Super, they lost, but they won the first game, he didn't play the first game, I guess they kind of hurt him, but he played the whole game, they kept showing him on TV and had the snaps on him and stuff like that. The guy called a ball, the guy was like, he was like, that was like, he was like, here, he almost caught the guy, but the guy was close to the end. And the guy caught the ball, and he was like walking like this. And they call his name. It was so funny. I was like, oh my goodness, show him on TV like that. He's like walking like he was so sad.
This is what keeps me going. That's my great grandson.
Oh, okay. How old is he?
6 months now.
Oh, okay. I'm getting ready.
That's great grand. I have 10 grandkids.
Okay.
Hang in there, you'll get there.
I hope not. That means too many babies, too many gifts to buy during the Christmas holiday. You know, everybody looking for gifts during the Christmas holiday. My sister was buying little stuff. She got a lot of grandkids now, but she was buying a little bit at a time. They buying a little bit at a time. Yeah. Talk to Dave. I was going to get it done. You know, space down here, the plane is so expensive now. I want to go to everyone's game, but now I'm still got to go all the way to Orlando and get a cheap ticket. So.
Where you
Right quick, Dave, I'm leaving.
reconvene?
Did you get that email? Okay, I don't have your number, because I sent an email to the secretary. She's supposed to give me
Mayor, are you ready for the next item? Or should we wait?
I'm gonna give Commissioner Press, Commissioner Barnett.
Oh, sorry.
was in the middle of it. It's the one.
The first Commissioner Parnas. We're just gonna wait on. That's okay. All right, we're gonna read. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item on the agenda, well, you have one item on consent board appointment. So I'll just read into the record. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, appointing members to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for a 2-year term, providing for conflicts and effective date.
Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Close it to the public commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Parnas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Okay, the next item, there's one item on consent, agreements and expenditure requests. I'll read into the record. Item number 12 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving a work authorization with Hazen and Sawyer PC for consulting services for the city's stormwater utility program in an amount not to exceed $105,000, authorizing execution of the work authorization, providing for an effective date.
What's the face thing?
Yeah.
Is it mine? Why is it mine? Okay. Commission, any comments regarding this item? We have presentation, Mr. City Manager. Is that a no?
No comments at this time.
Okay, no problem. Anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Not seeing anyone, we close it to the public.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Okay, we are now on item number 13. The ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, amending and renaming section 2-1 City Seal of Chapter 2 Administration of the City Code of Ordinances to include the city's current official seal and city logo, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and an effective date. This is first read.
Mayor, this item is really just a housekeeping cleanup item. The city has trademarked and has been using the new city logo with the buckhorns for quite some time, but still within Code of Ordinances is the older version of the city logo, which is the diamond-shaped logo. Additionally, the Public Affairs and Marketing Department has done a slight update to the city seal, to mainly just adjusting the graphic of the deer in the center of the logo. And so, as a housekeeping item, we are asking for approval of this item to reflect the updated logo and seal.
Commission, any comments? Anyone from the public?
Indicate Tanner, 111 Southeast Fifth Avenue, Otis Tanner, Way Deerfield Beach. Just a note, I don't talk about the logo. Do any of you remember when our logo was Deerfield Beach, part of the Gold Coast? We still are. I'll find one of the old pieces of stationery when we used to have that.
Wasn't bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Good evening, Daniel Chinetsky, 34 Keswick B, Deerfield 33442. I'm in favor of updating the logo with the deer. I know it may seem sort of trivial, but every time I enter Deerfield and exit, you see the statue of the deer. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful point of recognition for the city, and it's what gives it character, the deer. So I'm in favor of it, to update it. And I even like the little lapels with the little deer horns, the deer antlers. It's small, but sometimes a logo creates a big impact for the city, gives it its identity, and I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? I will close it to the public. Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Parnas, second by Commissioner Preston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Okay, we are now at comments by administration and legal. I have no comments tonight.
Mayor, I do have a presentation. I come up to the podium to provide that.
Just read the item to the record. Management, this is item 14, management recommendations in response to preliminary and tentative audit findings provided by the State of Florida's Auditor General Office.
Thank you. Good evening again, David Santucci, City Manager. Tonight I'll be providing an update to the City Commission and the public regarding the Auditor General's audit on the City of Deerfield Beach. It was an operational audit. We're at the stage where the city has provided comment back based off of the preliminary and tentative audit findings. Next slide, please. So just to recap the actions that were taken, and Mr. Soroka, if you wouldn't mind just grabbing the mouse and minimizing these. Thank you. Appreciate it. Back in May 21st, 2019, at a city commission meeting, the city commission directed me, being the new city manager at the time, to request an audit from the Auditor General. And this was based on numerous findings from the internal audit that we had that I believe, troubled the commission in terms of just making sure that we were in compliance and that we were seeking process improvement. I'm happy to report that obviously that audit, those audit findings, which were, excessive at the time, all except for one after that audit were remained. So staff was able to alleviate that. In August 16th, 2019, Representative Lamarca, he requested the Joint Legislative Audit Committee approve an audit on behalf of the city. So we had reached out to him, being our local representative, and him being a member of the JLAC committee. On December 17th, 2019, the Joint Legislative Audit Committee directed the Auditor General to conduct an audit. Subsequent to that, we received notification from the Auditor General that they were initiating the audit, and the audit began. The audit, obviously, you can looking at the timeline, you can see just how long the audit took. It took a long time for a few reasons. One was COVID, so that the ability for us to communicate, for them to come down as they normally would, was did not be able to occur under the normal circumstances that they would perform the audit. So there were delays in that regard. Additionally, the breadth of the audit was a lot larger than originally intended, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. On September 12th, in response to the preliminary and tentative audit findings, management did provide a response in accordance with the guidelines and requests of the Auditor General, provide that response within 30 days. Next slide, please. So I talked about a little bit about the breadth of the audit. So first and foremost, what was the audit period? What did they look at? What period of time did they look at? They looked at our records and our operations from a time of October 1st, 2018 to January 31st, 2020. And as requested by the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, They asked them to concentrate on accounting policies and procedures, internal controls regarding the payroll function and separation of duties in payroll, compliance with investment policies, and compliance with the employee benefits plan. Next slide, please. However, the Auditor General has great discretion in what type of audit they conduct. And with that, they did perform a comprehensive operational audit. Prior to us receiving the tentative and preliminary audit findings, we had an exit interview with the Auditor General staff. In the meeting was myself, the CFO, the Assistant City Manager, Mayor Gans, along, as I said, several members of the Auditor General staff. They informed us that they looked at 66 areas within governmental operations and multiple activities. And within those 60 areas, they found 15 findings and recommendations in total. So,
Mr. Santucci, just for clarity on this, because I think there's some people that will try to run with this and go in a weird direction, but it's 66 areas. That doesn't mean it's 15 out of 66 that we've got notification on. It's 66 areas, meaning that they could have found 80 findings out of 66 in 66 areas, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So 15 findings doesn't mean it's 15 out of 66. It's 66 areas with only 15.
That's correct. And as you can see here, there were 4 areas where they found the findings. That being payroll and personnel administration, procurement and expenditures, motor vehicles, and administration and management. And again, as I said, we provided a response within the 30 days and by the deadline that the Auditor General provided. That was given to them on just this Monday. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the findings and the recommendations. The first finding was that a city employee salary and benefit charged to the CRA were not based on documented employee time and efforts work. The recommendation out of that was that we should be documenting the time for the folks who have the salary allocation out of the CRA. And our response is that timesheets are maintained for time spent by the CRA/Economic Development Director, as well as the city clerk staff and other staff on CRA activities. Additionally, as we've talked about in the budget process, one of the things we'll be doing here in the new fiscal year is a cost allocation study to develop the allocation methodology for the administrative charges to be assessed by the CRA. So we'll take a second look at that. But to expand a little bit upon that, we're just going to tighten the belt a little bit. But although we agree with the recommendation, we want to make it clear that we do maintain timesheets for these positions. Next slide, please. The finding recommendation number 2 is that interview scoring sheets for job applicants were not always completed properly and or contained errors. So they found a few instances of that. And during the audit period, as you can see in July of 2020, HR policies were revised and they were further revised in August of 2022. And what we have in place now is a dual review of the scoring sheets and mathematical calculations. We also automated a lot of the calculations in the various evaluation sheets that we use. And the verification for accuracy is done prior to the offer of employment. So there's never an instance where the employee is offered a job subsequent to after finding the area. Next slide, please. Next was a termination leave payout to one employee was exceeded the amount allowed by city policy. This was corrected by one, and what we're talking about here is that there was an offer of employment that provided for an additional leave benefit that did not comply with the policy of the city at the time. And so a couple of things have happened. One, commission approved a personnel rules and regulations policy that allows reasonable and customary fringe benefits to employment offers to non-union employees that are approved by the city manager. But secondarily, there's an internal HR procedure that requires a dual verification of that pay rate and benefits before it is imported into the system. And that's for the new hire or status change process. Finding recommendation number 4 were errors noted in overtime paid to employees. Cost benefit analysis is not done for excessive overtime. What they're really talking about there is that they did note some errors where overtime was paid out in excess of what was actually on the timesheets. So we have put in a new process above and beyond what we currently do. And what we currently do is that there is a review of overtime at the department level before it is submitted to payroll. But also there is further verification now in place within payroll that does a review to flag payroll that's over 20 hours in a payroll period. And the payroll period is 2 weeks, requiring written justification from the department director of why that overtime occurred. And then when there is repeated overtime, that will be referred to the CFO out of the payroll division and discussed with HR and the department director so that there could be further evaluation and discussion of any alternatives of why there may be excessive overtime occurring within any department or division. Next slide, please. Finding number 5. City policies and procedures for monitoring the firefighters' pension plan could be enhanced. The city personnel did not review and maintain documentation to support retiree average annual compensation calculations used to determine retiree pension benefit amounts. What does that mean? I think it's easier to understand the pension board and who reviews things and the state statutes that relate to that first before answering that question. First and foremost, the rate of return is determined by the fire pension board, not by the city, not by city staff. The fire pension board is a statutory makeup, meaning it is set by state statute. It only consists of two individuals that are selected by the city. The other 3 are either selected by the firefighters in the plan, and then one is that'd be 2 others, and then the last one is a member selected by the 4 other members. So the board determines that rate of return. The plan actuary, he makes recommendations regarding that rate of return, which the board can choose to adopt or not to adopt. So that's how that works. And so they're recognizing here that the actuary made recommendations reduce that rate of return. We agree with that, but ultimately it is up to the board. And then as it relates to city personnel did not review and maintain documentation to support retiree average annual compensation calculations. So again, the city agrees with that recommendation, but we're a little limited in what we are able to do. The calculations are provided by the Broward Sheriff's Office to the board actuary so that they can determine what those payouts should be. That information and the plan in its entirety, it goes through an audit. They have their own auditor. So they have an auditor who should be reviewing these things and looking at these things, just like we have an internal auditor. But nonetheless, again, we agree with this recommendation because at the end of the day, the city is on the hook for pension liability. And so we are working with the Broward Sheriff's Office to request that source data to ensure that the data provided over to the actuary we can review that to ensure that the payouts are in compliance with city policy, state statute. Next slide, please. Finding recommendation number 6, controls over the city's procurement of services could be enhanced. A review of evaluation criteria should be enhanced with written explanations when scoring proposals and when there are variations in scoring. We agree with that recommendation. We do have a very comprehensive evaluation system for competitive solicitations, which involves the evaluation criteria, scoring sheets, instructions to evaluation members. However, what they're asking us to do here is to further define the evaluation criteria. So as an example, if we have an evaluation criteria of, let's just say, qualifications, experience, and past performance, go into a little bit more detail about what we are asking the evaluator to look at or further define what that specific criteria is. And what the idea there is that we put a little bit more objectivity into the evaluation process. So again, we agree with that recommendation. We're implementing that. Next slide, please. Finding recommendation number 7, city records do not demonstrate that all required documents were received from an entity receiving city grant money to operate a youth sports program. This should not be unfamiliar to you. If you remember, one of the first things that we did with me as the city manager was we updated that sports policy, and the city commission adopted that on January 14th, 2020. The process developed to obtain the documentation before the start of the program and approval of the continuation of the agreement. That process is in place and has been, and then approval is required prior to the expenditure now. So what we used to do was it was more of a grant of, I don't know the exact amount, but if we gave the youth sports organization $10,000, here's $10,000 at the end of the year, true up with us, tell us how you spent it. Now it's a little bit different. You have $10,000. If you want something, you tell us what that is. We'll reimburse you or we'll make that expenditure for you. So that process has been updated. Next slide, please. Finding recommendation number 8, the city should enhance its review of procurement card purchases to ensure that those purchases comply with city policy and serve a valid public purpose. The recommendations that the auditor provided, we agree with. We updated our P card policy. We backed on August 30th, 2021, which updated the prohibited uses and travel-related purchases. If you remember, additionally, we did do an update to the travel policy so that both policies would be in line, which they unfortunately were not at the time. So the internal P card audit process has also been enhanced. We've transferred that responsibility to accounts payable, which increases the transaction review. We've also increased enforcement, reporting, and accountability for violations up to and including disciplinary action. And I can show you that is in place. We've also enhanced the training and the frequency of training with an initial training and annual training as a condition of use of P card. Next slide, please. The finding recommendation number 9 was that the city travel policies were not consistent with city ordinances and that city records did not support meal subsistence payments as travelers' departure and return times were not documented. So we didn't have the return time and departure time on our travel forms. We updated our travel forms to reflect that. The city also adopted a new travel policy back on June 15th, 2021. And there's also greater review, approval, and reconciliation in procedures imposed for oversight. And that process is working very well at this point. Next slide, please. Finding recommendation number 10 is contrary to city policy. A take-home vehicles assignments were not always supported by a properly completed take-home vehicle agreement signed by the employee and applicable department director. This really resulted from just a lack of, let's say, the fleet department not having ownership over the process. I have returned that, or I put that in the hands of the fleet department now. And so the processes are now in place where the take-home vehicle assignments, first and foremost, have been reduced. I've reduced the number of take-home vehicles out there in the fleet. We've also revised the take-home vehicle policy. It's being finalized. It's in final draft form. We're just going through department level review to make sure everybody is okay with it before it is implemented. And city manager, my approval is required with a recommendation from the director and the fleet manager prior to any assignment of a take-home vehicle. And the completed agreement is required before keys are handed over to an employee for this privilege. Next slide, please. Finding recommendation number 11 is the city not maintain records to support the value of personal use of city vehicles reported as taxable income and internal revenue Internal Revenue Service. So this becomes a fringe benefit, you're required to report out on an annual basis. There are instances where there was no record of the documentation. Again, as in response, we reduced the number of take-home vehicles. We've also updated the policy to require completion of these documents for IRS compliancy, and failure to maintain that IRS compliancy is grounds for termination of the privilege, and the full tax burden will be passed on to the employee if the form is not completed. Next slide, please. Finding and recommendation number 12, the city had not established a target working capital amount for its solid waste fund. In addition, the 2017 through 18 through 19 through 20 fiscal years, the solid waste fund experienced a deficit unrestricted net position. This should not be unfamiliar to us. This is something that we've seen our internal auditors also make comments on. Our response, of course, we do agree with the finding that the GASB 75 OPEB reporting requirement was what caused this negative impact on the fund to this extent. And we do have a rate sufficiency study in progress right now. We anticipate that rate study will be completed here sometime in the fall, and we'll be able to present the City Commission with its findings, options, recommendations, so on and so forth, here within the next 90 to 120 days, or perhaps even sooner. So we're taking steps to address this. Next slide, please. Finding recommendation number 13. City controls over budgetary processes need to be enhanced to ensure that the budgets are prepared. All city funds and expenditures are limited to approved budget amounts. This is something that I think you've heard myself and the Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Tinsley, talk about most recently in the past 2 budget years. And so since fiscal year 22, all funds are budgeted if revenues and expenditures are anticipated or expected. Additionally, we've enhanced those procedures by doing a year-end budget amendment within 60 days of the year end, which is the deadline according to state statute. And additionally, we've been conducting budget amendments throughout the year so that we can be a little bit more nimble in terms of our compliance with this recommendation. Next slide, please. The city did not document the quarterly investment reports required by city policy that were provided to the city manager. Since fiscal year 21, the CFO has been in compliance with this requirement, providing me with the required quarterly investment reports. Next slide, please. And lastly, policies could be enhanced to provide for better accountability of city-owned property. So all new, the response is the policy will now provide for all new capital items to be tagged with an actual tag. We do perform an annual inventory on our capital assets, but we're beginning in FY23, we're going to do a physical verification on a semi-annual basis. And additionally, the transfer and disposition of property does require my authorization and signature prior to the disposition transaction. An additional enhancement that is now in place. So there will be policy updates to that and training along with to staff to ensure compliance in there. Next slide, please. So just in summary, again, the audit period was from October 2018 to January 2020. This audit was at the request of the City Commission, and it was to ensure that we were in compliance with our policies and procedures and that we could improve our processes. And so this has really been a helpful exercise. It really has, especially in consideration for me as the city manager. I know I've been here for over 3 years now, but at the time of this audit, being very new in this position. New assistant city manager, you got a brand new CFO, new parks director, new procurement director. So this has been very helpful for us to understand where the gaps are and where we need to improve. But as you can see in the next bullet, we've really taken action steps throughout this entire audit process. Every time we had conversations with the Auditor General and they made us aware of something, we looked at that internally before the Auditor General came back to us, here just recently, a month ago, with the tentative and preliminary audit findings, we were taking action on these things all the way through. So 14 of these items have corrective actions in place at this point. The one item that does not, which is, as we talked about, a little bit, quite frankly, outside of the city's purview to a great extent, is that fire pension finding. But again, we are making strides to double check the information that was provided by VSO and confirmed by the plan board, actuary, and auditor to make sure that information is correct. And again, the SOPs have been adopted. Most of them are in place at this point. The few remaining, we believe, will be implemented within the next 60 days. And we wait further feedback and requests from the Auditor General's office based on the response that we provided to them on Monday. We expect that they will release the final audit here. I think they said it takes about somewhere within 30 days to release that final audit once we reply. And then they will follow up with us. They're going to get back with us in approximately 18 months, and they're going to review these items. They're going to see what we've put in place and improvements that we've made and verify that these things have occurred. That is the extent of my presentation. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Commission comments. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager, for the presentation. I know the presentation was thorough, but I mean, it is kind of a tip of the iceberg. I mean, the audit is lengthy and our response is lengthy as well. So this just is the bullet highlights. What would you say on a scale of 10, all 15 of these audit findings in the, how, I don't know what I'm looking for, like how, just how important that it is, or how terrible the findings were, maybe is what I'm trying to say. I mean, it doesn't seem like, this is an audit that we requested. So that's the most important thing. And I want to try and get out of my comments here, that this is an audit that the city requested. So when you hear audit, you think bad things. Sometimes it first comes to mind, but no, this is something that we requested. I think you could perform an audit on anything and get a finding. So that doesn't surprise me that there's findings, because you will always get a finding. And I would be shocked if we didn't, because we can always do things better procedurally. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But of the 15, these don't really seem to rise to me to be anything of shock or anything that we should be concerned about. I mean, I would probably put this at a very low. If I was doing on a scale of 1 to 10, it'd probably be very low. The findings that came out of this audit. Would you concur with that?
I agree with you, Commissioner. And I think when you look at how long this audit took, how long they were looking into city operations, understanding that they were looking at 66 different areas of government operations, as they told us in the exit interview, and they found findings within 4 of those. We had 15 findings. And the question was asked, and Mayor, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but you did have a question during that exit interview, and it was like, said something to the effect of, how bad does this look? Where do we fall within the range of the audits that you do? And their response was, you're not the best, you're certainly not the worst. They've seen audits where they've had 90+ findings when they've done an audit. And so we're nowhere near that. What I look for, and just because I'm not an auditor, I'm not going to pretend to be, but knowing enough that I have reviewed a lot of audit material and been just through my career very, very aware of audit findings and how to approach these from an auditor's perspective. I don't see anything in here that talks about negligence, waste, or abuse. And those 3 words are really something you don't want to see. What I see in here is a lot of errors, gaps, and room for improvement, and in areas where we have already done so. So again, if you're asking me on a scale, I don't know what I'd say. Maybe between, for me, I take things very, very hard. you know, and I want perfection. I demand perfection. I seek it. So I'm going to say, you know, we're doing 3 and a 5, but all these things are manageable and things that are easily addressable. Thank you, man.
You, and to say that, your question is exactly what I asked in our exit interview on that. Where does it fall? Because I think our tendency, Mr. Santucci and I are both ready to, you know, say, well, gosh, 15, that's a lot of, you know, how concerned should we be? And we were reassured that it's, when they look at that many things, they only have 15 come back. To give you an idea, the city of Opelika had 99 findings that were nowhere near as pedestrian as many of the things that we have. The fact that we did request this, and it, you know, there's a lot of people who've had a lot to say, oh, it took a long time. Gosh, there must be something really bad. Well, they're going to be sorely disappointed, even though they're trying to make some hay with it. It's forgetting the fact that there's COVID, forgetting the fact of all the things we've had in this time that we put this forward. I appreciate Chippemark's assistance in this and getting this done, because obviously when we switched city managers, there were some issues going on. We wanted to make sure what we were doing was right. The only thing that I look at this that I'm a little concerned about, that, you know, should there be something found that things were done inappropriately, we don't know that yet. It's more a matter of getting a better handle on it. Has to do with pensions. And while we do have a limited control over that, I do think if something is found to be wrong, at least that's an area that we should be looking at clawback, in my opinion, calculations we've done wrong, because that's a long-term benefit that potentially would be costing us money that we want to make sure is done right. And I'm also thinking that maybe when we appoint people to that board, that we really think long and hard about who we're putting on that board. I know it's hard to find volunteers, or be like to volunteer their opinion another time. But if we can bring forward volunteers that maybe aren't in that union or associated with that union, that might be helpful for us to maybe open some eyes to it a little bit. But again, we have limited control. The BSO is going to work with us to make sure things are calculated properly. And you know, I want to say that I feel good about the fact that we've already have addressed almost everything in this audit. We've already had things in place for some of it over a year now, even longer, and we're continuing to work on that. So this has been great, and I would recommend any city to request this to be done. Considering how long this one took, I would say probably every 10 years to do it, but it's a very good thing. So thank you. Commissioner Preston.
When I look at the discrepancies, the issues that are brought up, how you handle these, those things that are brought up actually becomes a part of your evaluation process, at least with me. And I can see that not only was the responses, in my estimation, thorough, it has safeguards. So you were actually addressing these issues in what you should, but you were also trying to eliminate whatever the details were that caused it to eliminate them, which I think is equally important. So that's what I look at. I was looking at the responses as you were going through, and that's what gave me confidence that things can actually be even better. And so as the process goes forward, I think there's going to be even more stability and less issues as far as it relates to audits in my.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'd be remiss if I did not provide credit to the team who worked on this audit, but more specifically and deservingly, Ms. Tinsley. She walked into this audit day one with the city, really not knowing. It's like walking into somebody's house that you've never been in before, and then being asked to find the teacup and the fine china in the house, and you don't even know where it is, right? So she's starting from scratch, trying to find all the background information to comply with the audit. So I really I know it was a grueling process for her. It was trial by fire, but I can certainly say she probably learned a lot about the city in a very short amount of time because of this. But she definitely deserves some credit for her work on this because she did take the lead.
Thank you, sir.
I just have 2 more comments for this evening. Well, actually, give me 1. I just want to make the city commission aware, and you've probably seen this in the news, that there's a pending railroad strike. And this is something of concern for me because we receive a lot of our chemicals, fuel, things like that from freight. And, a long-term strike could have a negative impact on us. So I'm watching this very closely. We're putting measures in place to try to combat anything that might come out of this. But I just, caution the commission to keep a very close eye on this as I am. And obviously not much that we can do. I do understand that it's being looked at the federal level at this point. But it could have an impact here in South Florida beyond just consumer product and things of that nature. So I want to make you aware of that.
Thank you.
Here now on comments by Mayor, City Commission.
Start with District 1.
Wasn't forgotten.
Have to go first.
I appreciate it. My only comment is to the residents who showed up tonight. That is so much appreciated. For the last 3.5 years that I've been up here, I have been requesting residents to get involved in the community, get involved in the decisions that have to be made that directly affect your lives. And to have the number of residents that were here for the public comment section, I tremendously appreciate it. It makes my job so much easier when I know, what the residents want. Because again, that's why I'm here. I'm here to be a voice for the residents, and I really just appreciate the amount of support that we received tonight for that. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. District 2.
As a reminder, I'm going to have a district meeting on September 29th at the Hillsborough Technology Center, 7 p.m. Mr. Mayor, I would like to just provide some information for you and the rest of my colleagues tonight. I've been talking with staff, and there will be something that will be brought forward. But I want to give you a background on this so that if you have any questions a little bit later, we can talk about that. In 1903, the first school in Deerfield Beach officially opened for African American students, and that place was at the First Zion Baptist Church that is still here in the city of Deerfield Beach. In 1905, Miss Bertha Ely was appointed teacher to the Deerfield Colored School number 9. That's what it was called. And she completed her teacher's exam in September of 1905. In 1907, Dade County Board of Public Instruction voted to begin a school for whites in Deerfield Beach, and that is presently Deerfield Beach Elementary. In 1907, Ms. Bertha Ely Powell Womack petitioned the school board of Dade County to build a school for Black students in Deerfield Beach. 2 years later, the request was granted. Ms. Powell purchased a lot for $40 at Northwest 4th Street and Northwest 1st Avenue in Deerfield Beach. It was a one-room wooden structure, 16 by 24. And in 1928, the board agreed to buy 5 acres, and that site was purchased for $500. And in 1929, a three-room school was built for $6,434 for Negro children. With some financial assistance from Julius Rosenwald, which was a Jewish philanthropist. He also was president and CEO of Sears and Roebuck. And with that, Breakaway Elementary became a reality. Miss Esther May Huntley Howard requested that the school name be changed from the old colored school number 9 to Breakaway Elementary. And Breakaway Elementary was named in honor of Mr. William Stanley Beaumont Breakaway, who was a professor of Mrs. Esther May Huntley. And in 1959, Deerfield Park Elementary was opened as a break-off of Breakaway Elementary. And the original Breakaway School continued to serve the community by helping adults learn to read. And Breakaway also assisted in teaching trades to people in the community. And it's with that that I come to you, my colleagues, that we have this historical piece in the city of Deerfield Beach of great significance. And we are right now in the process of redoing the Northeast focal point, and that's where that school was. And when it was closed, it was tore down and became Northeast focal point. As we are redoing that building, I would like to bring before you, I've asked staff to begin to put that together so that we may be able to rename the building Breakaway Center for Active Aging. Now, we get money from the state, and so that the wording has to be right for that. I had it researched. I was told by the city manager and Mr. Salas that the state has no problem, and said that if you want to name it that, you can name it that. I would also like, along with that, is to have the street right there where the lot was purchased at Northwest First Avenue, that street be renamed Breakaway Place. And so that will be coming before us. I've talked to the Historical Society. I had a meeting with them. They are totally on board. I think it's a good thing. I have also informed some of the Breakaway people that are still left, some of them which is in their 90s now, that I would like to do this. And so I will bringing that in front of all of you, and I hope you will embrace this from the historical perspective as well as the social significance.
Awesome. Well, give a sense of.
I would actually, with the street naming, I'm going to ask you tonight to at least give me, you won't be voting for it, yes or no, but I would like to get your permission, because the street naming part of it entails the Historical Society, and there are other things that have to be done. There's an application that has to be put in. So if I could get a vote that we can continue to get the information so that I can bring it in front of you, I would greatly appreciate that.
You definitely have my support until you get the information. I don't know what kind of formal vote we need tonight, and I'm going to assume that Commissioner Drosky is going to be upset about that because he likes to have his own.
Well, he won't be voting on it tonight.
Good.
This is perfect. You won't be voting on it. You'll be just saying that I can gather the information.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my full support.
Okay. Did I need a motion, Mr.?
I don't think you need a motion, based on what you asked.
Okay.
Ultimately, it will come back to the commission for a vote.
Okay.
That would need a motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Also, just before I finish, the Julius Rosenwald part, as I said, he was a Jewish philanthropist. And his part to Breakaway was very significant. And it should be noted that Mr. Rosenwald did something in that time, back in 1929, that most people were not doing when things were being ignored. Mr. Rosenwald stepped forward, which was greatly appreciated. So there will be something coming before you that for voting on the name of the building and the street, and we'll have a chance to vote on that next meeting.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
And just because these are the conversations that we have had, Commissioner Preston, I believe the renaming that you were looking for in the building was Braithwaite Active Aging Center.
Right, well, the name would be Braithwaite, let me get it right. Braithwaite Center for Active Aging. Is that right? John? Okay. Braithwaite Center for Active Aging. That would be the name, the official name. And the street would be at Northwest First Avenue, would be Braithwaite Place.
You okay with that? All right, District 3.
To all you doubters out there, yes, I'm still alive and well. I know I was missing for 7 weeks, but I had a wonderful surgeon, and I'll match push-ups with anybody my age in the room. I'm fine, and I'm back, and I couldn't be happier. I've had more work in the last 2 weeks than I've had in a while, because it kind of builds up when people depend on you to point them in the right direction when they have a problem. And in my district, which is a good many seniors, there are many problems. And I'm happy to be back. And it was nice to be welcomed back by this commission. I love this city. I've lived here for 32 years, most of it in District 3. But I don't look at District 3 as a separate unit. We're one city. And what happens on the beach is just as important to me as what happens in District 4 or District 2. When we vote up here, we don't vote by the district. Our vote for an ordinance concerns the whole city. And sometimes that's a hard thing to do, because we are one city. Like it says on the water tower, we just ain't a pretty beach anymore. We're more than that. We're a growing metropolis, almost 85,000 residents strong and growing. And that requires work by everybody. I'm happy to say that some of the firehouses are being repaired, and we're hoping to have a new one. We'll know in the spring whether the federal budget will allow us to build a new one. Those things are all necessary to make us happy, to give us a place that we can be proud of. I've talked to many tourists who tell me we have the most beautiful beach in all of Florida. And I believe that. And so up to all of us to keep it that way. I hate to be the rat, but if I walk into a restaurant and they're using plastic straws, my first phone call is the code. Even though I may love the restaurant, he's polluting our city. Whoever it is. We banned plastic straws a long time ago now. Why? Because they wind up in the fish we eat. And that's not good. If you love this city, like I do, you want to see it do its best. And I had 7 weeks to contemplate my future while in the hospital. And I couldn't wait to get back. Because there's so much to be done by all of us, not just the commission, all of us. You see something, pick up a phone. Let's get it fixed. There's a hole in the road that needs to be patched, call somebody, make them aware. There's a B&B out of whack, pick up the phone, call the city. We'll see what we can do. It's all of us together. It's not just the commission. It's all of us. You love this city. Do something to help it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. District 4?
Thank you, Mayor. And Commissioner Barnes, it's great to have you back. Your push-up challenge has given me a great idea for state of the city. So I'm not going to show my hand, but let's just say the creative juices are already flowing. So stay
I've been
tuned.
working out because I've had to drop 30 pounds.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor Hudak, can you give me the date again of your community meeting for the Centrum project? Because for some reason I wrote down October 3rd, which is our next commission meeting, which is not correct. So could you just give me that one more time, please?
It's next Tuesday,
What time?
7 o'clock,
7 p.m.
right
Great,
here.
thank you.
Very welcome.
Okay. Third tonight is you'll be receiving from the city manager a copy of the draft interlocal agreement for solid waste disposable and recyclable materials that was presented by the working group, solid waste working group, yesterday, actually. It is a lengthy ILA. It's 32 pages. I don't anticipate you reading it verbatim, but I would ask you to please become familiar with it and to offer your opinions to the city manager and the city attorney. This is a very important document that will impact Deerfield Beach as well as all of Broward County going forward. And your input is greatly appreciated. I'm purposely being vague in my comments because I don't want to prejudice you as you have your own opinions going forward. So that's why I'm purposely holding back, but I would take a look at it and ask questions if you have them, to give your feedback, if not just to the general, concept and framework that's being proposed. The one tidbit that I will add, or ask you to look at in particular, is the executive committee that they're proposing to run this authority, which would be composed of 11 members. One would be from the county, and then 10 from the municipalities. And the 10 from the municipalities are broken down as 5 from quote unquote large municipalities, 3 from medium municipalities, and 2 from small municipalities. And I will tell you that Deerfield Beach, because of the population growth, we actually fall into the large municipalities. We are the last city. If you're ranking them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we are the last of the large cities. Good, yes, but also think of the converse. Again, I'm not trying to prejudice you, but think about being last on that list also puts us in the priority of how this committee would be picked going forward. So I don't want to share too much more. I don't want to prejudice you, but there's a con to that as well. So just think about that, carefully as you get this agreement. And again, that'll be presented to you by the city manager's office probably in the next coming days, if not your Friday packet. And I think they wanted 30 days for us to get our comments back, all the municipalities to get their comments back. So there's plenty of time. Next Saturday, October 1st is my next Saturday office hours. You can contact me directly or the city manager's office. Of course, I'm always available during the week, or by email or by phone or by text, or by smoke signal in between. But if you need that Saturday office hours, that's why they're there. Take advantage of it. Next is on Monday, September 19th at the Oviedo McKeithen Recreation Center from 6 to 8 p.m. The Florida Department of Transportation is hosting an workshop regarding the aesthetics for the Southwest 10th Street project. The purpose of the meeting is to get public input related to the aesthetics, meaning colors, graphics, textures of the hardscape features of the Southwest 10th Street project. For example, the sound walls, the pillars, the bridges, items of that nature. So this is the first public outreach, and I think we need to participate and make our opinion known. I'm trying to get the word out to the residents in my district, in the Waterford Homes, Waterford Courtyards, Independence Bay, Waterways communities. But the date that was given, September 19, is a very short one, so I don't know what kind of turnout will be there. But excuses or no excuses, I mean, the residents need to make their opinions known, and there'll be opportunities to participate either in person, you can email later. There's different ways to participate, but again, this is our opportunity. I'm not excuse me, not necessarily happy about the short timeline.
Don't to cry about it.
I always get choked up when FDOT comes to mind, so this is no exception. So that will be Monday, the 19th. If you can make it, including my colleagues, I would appreciate that, just to hear what they have to say and make our opinions known. To my friends at BSO, where's the sergeant? She's back there. I'm getting calls from the residents in the Independence Bay community this week that they are having great difficulty in the mornings, especially between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Going west out of their community, that the people coming east on Southwest 10th Street from the hinterlands are blocking that intersection. So in the mornings when the light turns red, they don't care, they block that intersection, they can't get out of their community. And so they have to wait a couple light cycles to be able to make that turn. So maybe if we can have some enforcement out there. This is a recurring problem that comes up every now and then out there. But I am getting calls. So if we could take a look at that, that would be appreciated. It's becoming a problem. I'm getting a bunch of calls, and I know there's a situation going on out there. And last but not least, that I have my friends at AT&T are at it again. I'm getting more calls and complaints about the fiber optic work that they're doing in West Deerfield Beach, this time along 45th Avenue. In particular, a water main was broke and the residents are having to boil their water because of the work that was done. There's a couple other yards and properties that look like they've just been completely tore up and demolished because of this project. So I'm getting complaints from the River Glen and from the harbors of River Glen communities now as the project goes west. So this is something that staff needs to be on top of, because the residents are not happy at all. And this is a continued problem that we're having with them going forward. So we need to keep an eye on that.
If I could give you an update on that really quick, Commissioner. We have pulled their permit to rectify these issues.
There you have it.
That's fantastic, because I will say this, I couldn't believe what I saw that they did at people's yards. It really was, it looked like they ripped up their entire front yard. I've never seen anything like it. It was really terrible. So I'm glad to get action. Thank you, Commissioner, for doing that. I think it's great to have you back, Commissioner Parnas. It's good to have you here, my friend, and you're bigger and stronger, doing better than you were. Well, not bigger, you're shrinking, but that's good. Good. You're doing it, but so glad to have you back. I think we're going to have a problem with Commissioner Hudak's meeting with us in attendance. That's something the city attorney brought up. There might be some issues. We can see the pause and judicial and it happen. It might be something that, as the rest of us, might not be able to attend. But I certainly would like to, but I understand why it might be best that we don't. So if that ends up being the case, I completely understand. I hope the residents do as well. But in our recess there, I had a brief conversation. There may be some problems with that, so we might not be able to participate in that without it being an issue when it comes before us. I feel like I do want to say, I do want to thank Ms. Tinsley and her team and our city manager for the job they did during this audit. I know that wasn't easy. the fact that you've already taken action on many of those items and move forward with it. Like I said before, really appreciate that. And that was a good job in the sense of, excellent job, on that. I feel like there's something else I wanted to say, and I can't think what it is. That's a sign of how I'm feeling tonight, but, that's it. I'll keep it short.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah, it already is, because they are, I've already read that they, the long distance Amtrak, they've already canceled. Because I think it's.
Very well.
Nice to see you.
You too.
I know, these guys, remember on planning zoning committee when they were, there were only a few here, but a developer. The traffic, I mean, if I was paying like. And I had to come up north and take a UE to get that neighborhood and all that traffic. I know, because I was down there today, I stopped on the corner of Hillsborough and Federal Highway, and I tried to get